the way that this one was done, where it was like, especially because there's moments where she's like, he may hate me when he finds out, but I'm going to take this moment. And because that's what you would
Yeah.
do. You're like, I am falling for
That
this
is what you,
guy.
yeah.
So I'm just, I mean, my heart's already in it. So let's just
Figure it
go.
out later. Yeah.
And hopefully he forgives me for lying to him, because I'm not ready to tell the world what's in my head.
Hi, I'm Allie.
And I'm Sam, and this is the Nit Writs podcast.
Yes, this week we are jumping into One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns, or I guess the Shepherd King Duology, which we both just finished. You like
Yeah.
literally 2 days
Yeah.
ago and 2 hours ago.
The author is Rachel Killig, right?
Yes,
Gillig?
Gillig.
Gillig.
I know that. Yeah,
Yeah. The
her name
author
is
is
like an anagram thing.
Yeah, it is.
Palindrome.
Yeah. An anagram. Yeah, it's a palindrome. Yes, I am slightly obsessed now. I read them on
Ooh.
Kindle, and they are now on my list of books to purchase in the physical copies, because they have to go on my trophy wall, because they are beautiful and spooky and amazing.
Yes, very like storybook feeling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which if you had told me it's dark storybook vibes, I would have been like, ew. Like this is what I can't know about books before. They always sound so like when I read the back of the book, I was like, that sounds stupid. Um,
I didn't read the
you
back
know?
of the book. I read a little tiny something that was like, it's a dark dark lusty romantasy, and I was like, yeah, all right, I'm here for it. Let's go.
I knew that there was something in her head. That's what I knew
I did
before.
not know that there was anything in her head.
I guess you learned that pretty quick though.
Yeah, I knew no things. Oh, and spoilers,
Oh yeah,
right, right.
spoilers to One Dark Window.
There will definitely be spoilers for the two books.
Also, actually, should we do really quick? So obviously we're talking about our current reading check-in.
Yeah.
Did you write it all?
I did not write. I
I didn't
have
write shit
just
either.
been in books.
That was last week where you read all those. Oh my god.
I have read 6 books in 12 days.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And it's been amazing. And I somehow have still managed to get a decent amount of sleep, but I have been up until like 1 o'clock in the morning reading. But
That's awesome. Yeah.
yeah, going into this book, so I read hold on here.
Yeah, wait, talk about the other books you read first so we can and then we'll like jump into it.
Yeah.
Because you read an entire series before this?
I did read an entire series. I read the Supernatural Curse book series by Krista Street. It is a wolf shifter contemporary romantasy. It takes place mostly in this world in Chicago, and yeah, this is werewolves and witches and vampires and stuffs.
Mhm.
It was a fast read. It was fun. I did enjoy them, but they were also a little bit of like comfort reading. I think there was
Mhm.
it was a slightly more straightforward story. The writing style was contemporary, right? So it's easier prose, and there's not as many twists and turns. There's not as many secrets to like kind of deep dive. Theorizing was a little bit lighter in that one, right? I wasn't like writing as many notes of like, this is what I think will happen, because I'm that psycho who loves to theorize as I'm reading.
Same.
And it's much more smuttier, so I think that like it's slightly heavier on the spice side of things.
Mhm.
So like the plot is a little bit, I don't want to say it's weaker, but the plot is a little bit thinner, where the
Mhm.
spice is a little bit higher, versus the Shepherd King's
Yeah.
duology, which is much more
Just
intricate,
straight
plot
black.
heavy, but there is some spice.
Yeah. Not very many sex scenes though. I was actually kind of surprised by that. Um, but
Yeah. And, so I think shifting gears, right, I had been reading the Throne of Glass series for a while, and
Mm,
then I shifted into the Shifter series, and it was sort of an easier brain muscle to read through, and
yeah,
then moving into this one, I was like, "Oh, this takes a different kind of brain muscle." I was like,
yeah,
there's some rhyming, there's a lot more things that are veiled, a lot more like, wait, what the fuck is going on here kind of stuff.
yeah,
And so the start of it, I was very like, okay, like yeah, I mean, I'm
mhm,
gonna read it. We're reading it, and I'm into it, but it took me a second to like get into the rhythm of the book.
mhm,
And again, I think that has a lot to do with what I was reading before. But
yeah,
then once I was in it, I was there. But I think the
yeah,
first couple of hours with the book, I was like, I'm gonna get there. It's gonna be fine. Like Allie says, it gets better. She's enjoying it. I'll stick with it. And then I think I
yeah.
like hit maybe chapter 12 or 13 and was just like, oh, we're going.
Yeah, because we had decided to read it together, I think the last week, last podcast.
Yeah.
Um, and I had was still in the at the halfway through Morningstar. Because yeah, I finished that book this week. Finished it, I think Thursday. And that was really good and it's so exciting and really one of my favorite series that I've read maybe since I got back into reading again. But I am very much more of a fan. I like smut, sure, but like I'm much more of a what I'm looking for is more of like just something to surprise me and something to just
Yeah.
captivate, like
Yeah.
escapism, I guess. Um, and I just didn't expect to like that. I mean, I knew people talked about it highly, but I just was like here for it, and I read. So yeah, if I got sick like in the middle of reading it, so I took like a big break, and then when I got back into it and like could like read without falling asleep, I read through that, and then I started One Dark Window 2 hours after I finished Morningstar, which is weird. I
Wow.
usually
Yeah.
give a little more time, but I was just like, I don't know, I just was in the mood to play a video game or something, or there was, like, nothing on YouTube. So I read One Dark Window for, like, 2 hours Thursday night, and
Mhm.
then I read it all day Friday,
Uh-huh.
finished it at, like, 10 p.m., and then started Two Twisted Crowns that
Yeah.
night, and then
Yep.
finished Two Twisted Crowns the next day. But
Yep.
I basically just did nothing but read for, like, 2 days, which is nice because I will not be able to do that
Yeah.
soon enough.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I think today's what? Monday?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think it was Thursday I started One Dark Window, and then I finished it on Friday. And
Nice.
I know I think I texted you and was just like, I just finished it and I want to start the
Yeah.
next one, but it's 1 a.m. so I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
And then
Wise.
yeah, I think I started Two Twisted Crowns Saturday late afternoon, and then finished it a few hours ago, and have been
Yeah.
it, thinking about it for the last few hours. I was like thinking about it while I was making dinner, and then
I
my
was like,
husband
"Are we
came
gonna
home
talk about
and
it?" But I didn't know if you had finished it, so I was like,
yeah, no, yeah,
maybe
I was
yeah.
like, this story. I think that it was one of the ways that I described it to my husband when I was talking to him. I was like, the series I was reading before, it was good. It felt a little comforty. I said, but I don't know that like the story doesn't stick with me, right? Where I'm like, yep, I read it. It was fun. It was good for that moment, but I'm not like kind of mulling it over. These ones, I feel like I'm sitting with these characters still, and I'm like, wow, that was a wild ride, and like still kind of thinking about the books. I'm a little, like I'm very attached in ways that I wasn't to. There's like I could see this book if I didn't have the TBR that I have and excited for the next books to read, like this would be a hangover style series where you're like,
Mhm.
what do I do without these people? And it's only 2 books, which is wild.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't feel it feels like more. Which books are you reading next?
I don't know.
Oh,
I have a long list of books to read, and so I don't know which one I'm reading next. But I thought we were gonna read Quicksilver.
yeah, we can do that. Although,
Yeah.
I wanna read the Children of Fallen Gods and Mother of Death and Dying because I just finished that book, like, in what no, a month ago, and I feel like
Yeah.
I forgot so much that I had to I had to read her recap, which she has a good recap on her website, so I
Yeah.
kinda wanna finish those
I
first?
have I have it on audiobook, but I might do a blend of audio and Kindle because I'm pretty sure it's on Kindle Unlimited. I might read the newest LJ Andrews books. I
Oh,
also
yeah.
have Fate Inked in Blood.
What?
I
Okay,
have
you've been talking
that
about reading that for a long time.
yeah, I have that kind of on the shelf ready to go. So it might be one of those instead.
Okay, I'm definitely down to read Quicksilver, like, at the same time one of these
Yeah.
days, but I
This
feel
is
like
the
you would tell me to read Daughter of No Worlds. Sorry,
one hun-
War of
one
Lost Hearts first.
100%. Yes.
Yeah, because 'cause I'm like you
Um
and then but then I also started the Broken Kingdoms, and then that's what I was gonna read after
mhm.
that.
Mhm.
But I could read Quicksilver really quick.
Yeah. We can push quick. I mean, I will always. I haven't read Quicksilver. I
Yeah, I
hear
just know it's like a thing.
it's yeah, yeah.
I hear
There's
it's mid.
yeah, there's people who love it and hate it, but I think the general audience is like, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I will always tell you to read Broadbent and Andrews.
Okay,
So
maybe I'll finish those and then hopefully I
mhm,
can do that quickly and then we can do that.
yeah,
And yeah, it's fun to like read at the same time because I was like we can actually like theorize not quite together because we do read at different paces. Plus I think you'll outpace me once like things
yeah.
really heat up. But maybe not. Sometimes like
Well, yeah,
I'm
I don't know. I mean,
shocked at how much I
there's
can
days where I can, there's weeks where things are a little bit lighter and I can, you know,
yeah.
blow through things, and then there's other weeks where I'm like, "Oh yeah, no, I really need to get my shit together
Yeah.
and do other things." But
This
yeah,
weekend I
I mean,
snuck off for about
I don't
20
think
hours.
I'm not going to be able to keep a book every 2 days up forever. That's a
No.
lot. But
Yeah.
it feels nice knowing that I'm already 6 books into my 25 book
Dude,
goal
you're
for the
gonna murder
year.
it. You're
Like
gonna
that's
double it easily. I'm
easily.
just
Yeah.
going for 2 books a week or
Mhm.
1.92 books a week for 100 for the year.
Yeah.
And so I'm almost on pace with that as long as I finish
Yeah, I was trying to
Women of
give
Fallen
myself
Gods by 30.
a modest goal, so then it felt better to achieve it, but, I mean, for a
Yeah,
lot of people, I mean, 2 books a month is still a pretty
it is, yeah.
decent goal, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, stay tuned for Children of Fallen Gods and
Mhm.
the LJ Andrews series. Okay. So let's chat. Um, yeah, what do you want to talk? Should we talk? Okay, should we talk about the writing first?
Yes.
Writing itself?
Yes.
'Cause I think that's the least compelling thing about these books. I
Yes.
read these like I read Fourth Wing. I didn't think the writing was very good. I thought that I think I got used to it over time
Mhm.
and settled into it. But at first I was like, we're making amateur mistakes. Writing is subjective. I don't know. But there are things that like would annoy me or that I would not do in my own writing. Um I forget what they are now. But I
Uh-huh.
remember reading the first couple of chapters and being like, no, that's kinda lame. But, like, the lore was interesting and the
Mhm.
story itself was interesting
Yeah.
that I just kinda like I read all of Fourth Wing in a week.
Yeah.
Uh, I can get over that shit in a way I think a lot of people cannot.
Yeah.
Even though I can heavily criticize it, uh
Mhm.
but also now, the fact that I can't remember it, maybe I'm like, "No, maybe it's not that bad." But at first, I remember being jarred a little bit.
Mhm.
Uh, and the okay, the thing that did drive me fucking bonkers at first was the rhymes, particularly actually for more scientifically poetic reasons. Now, I don't okay, here's the thing. With rhyme so first of all, let's just get it out there. Poetry does not need to rhyme.
Yeah.
That's not what poetry is, okay? But I that's where I think she was going for, like, a storybook kind of vibe.
Yeah.
But she was doing this repetition with the first and last line, but in
Mhm.
a really unsatisfying way. And
Ye
I don't know if she meant it to be unsatisfying with the way that the rhyme, like, slapped shut, because of the weird repetition and there's not enough space or it's she's doing,
yeah.
like, A, B, like, in the
Yeah.
repeating li I don't know. But,
There were ones
now you
where
could do that. Oh, yeah.
there were ones where and I kept thinking of more as riddles instead of
Yeah,
poetry,
that might be a little bit better, yeah.
and the times when the the rhyming scheme works and there's not that first line, last line repetition, I was good,
It's good.
but there are a couple of those where the first line and the last line are the same, and I'm like, Like, and I don't know if I'm reading like an idiot, but I'm like, "That doesn't rhyme." Like,
And
"Wait, what?"
you could find the rhyme if it does, but it should feel more natural, and the
Yeah,
fact that you had to reread it to get the rhyme is not a good
yeah,
sign. Because you
and
want a storybook to feel easy. You don't
yeah,
want it to have to work for the rhyme.
yeah.
Now, maybe it's a dark fantasy, which I didn't realize at the time, actually. So
Mhm,
maybe her now, if she had a point that she was trying to make unsatisfying rhymes because it's creepy or because something's wrong,
mhm,
that okay, but I didn't get that sense. I get the sense that
yeah.
she wanted to now, I
It's
think
like
what
almost like using like a minor key in music to get that like
you're
ominous sort of feel to it.
intentionally
Mhm.
trying to be eerie,
Yeah.
but I think and no, I do think it was there what you I think we eventually find out, or it's heavily implied that those were actually from the Book of Alders,
Yes.
which makes it more okay actually, because
Mhm.
a person is just a guy who's just writing some fucking rhymes. Like he's not
Yeah.
so that actually excuses it more, but
Mhm.
it still is like weird. And I was like, this is such a weird choice. You could have just reworked this or just not had the rhyme or just not had the repetition.
Yeah,
But as
I feel like it should have
the
been either or. Either have them rhyme where it feels very like "ba-dit, did-it, did-it," and it makes sense, or go which feels more riddle to me, or go full poetry where there is no rhyming and the first and last lines are matching.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or just first and last line is really hard to do that twice because what you get is this effect of like, um, "Okay, kids, listen up. No, did you hear the
Yeah.
first part?" It's
Yeah.
really like but also that's kind of, it is like a very much fairy tale book vibes.
Yeah.
So, on some level, it drove me a little crazy. On another level, they're just the beginnings of the chapters. Like they're
Yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
that. I think actually, Nightmare speaking in rhyme was much better
Yes.
most of the time,
Yes.
and so I was like, I'm fine with it. But those are
Yeah.
my 2, like, critiques of it. The rest, like, the story was interesting and the
Yeah.
lore was good, but that is yeah.
My 2 critiques are very similar, but one of them is a total me I mean, maybe they're both kind of a me problem.
Mhm,
So, when I first started the book and again, maybe it was because I was in a book that in a series that was much more straightforward before that.
mhm.
The first chapter or 2, I was like, "Get what you're saying, but you could just say it." Like, where it was like it was veiled in a way that made it seem a little bit like you're trying to do like you're trying to sound ominous and smart, and it's just coming off a little like, "Just tell me that there's a dude in your head." Like, I was kind of, like, not here, I was not in the vibe of it, and so I think the first
Yeah,
chapter, especially with, like, the epilogue, I was just or, like, the not epilogue part, the beginning part of it, and then the first few chapters had that, like, weird flashback, and then you get to
mhm,
the now. There was just something about it that I was like, "Just tell me what the fuck happened." I don't need the, like where I'm trying to read the cryptic literary stuff. Just tell me what the fuck happened. Like, and then the the gust of wind and a shadowed voice and I'm like, just say someone pushed you out of a window and you're running for your life, and then something in your head tell like, it was like a little bit like, can we just get to what I like? I don't want to have to decipher what the fuck you're trying to tell me right now on the first page. And so maybe that's a me
yeah.
thing, but I don't know. Maybe I got used to it, or maybe it just got better. Um,
I think a little bit of both because I think like, there's lines like, "Even if I should have feared him, even if I should," or like, it's like it's actually a critique of SJM very
yeah.
commonly is, having, like, one line down and then, like, a short sentence and then, like, it's like it
Mhm.
feels gimmicky, like, "Dun, dun, dun,"
Yeah, there
you
was
know?
something about the, like
Stuff like that. It's very scented in that first part.
there's
I actually think it gets better once we see Ione. That's where I think
oh,
it
you call her Ione? I call her Ione.
Oh, no, I call her Ione. Ione. That sounds like macaroni. Okay, I remember my other writing critique. Okay, is it like on page 14? Or I don't know if you can go to the page.
Yeah, I can. Hold on here, let me switch my
Um, she's like talking about her dad, and like she's talking about something. I came to say hello to my own daughter, my own house. Miriam's jaw snapped shut. I uncovered her mouth to hide her snicker. I almost smiled. It felt better than it should hearing my father stick up for me. But stronger than the tug at the corner of my lips was a dull-aged pain knotted deep in my chest, reminding me of the truth ever present between us. He hadn't always stuck up for me. Stuff like that,
Kind of, yeah.
where it's like, okay, why are you being so dramatic about the fact that your dad's an asshole?
Yeah.
I felt similarly with stuff like that specifically, um, like I don't know. I feel like a character might actually be like, "Wow, would have been nice if you had." I guess maybe I'm adding my own sass to it too much. Characters like that.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I felt like there was things where it was like, so like with the irises, right?
For the brothers,
Yeah, so there's a moment where she goes into
Iris,
the house.
irises. Oh, like the
The
flowers on the
flowers,
ceiling.
yes.
Yes. Oh yes. Yeah. It's exposition badly done. This is my other critique was that the exposition
And
was
maybe
too
that's
heavy.
what it was I was just realizing like, well, that's I don't know if that was like I was like, am I supposed to think that this is like I know I'm supposed to know what I'm reading, but I was also like, okay. Um
She says like, "Oh, I don't know why your father likes irises," and she's like, "I knew why. It's because my mother's name was Iris."
yeah.
That's on page 11.
Yeah. And I get that. So okay, maybe this is part of it, right? So a vase of deep violet irises sat on the small table beside the chair. I ran my fingers over the petals, careful not to bruise them. They were always there were always irises in the parlor. Such a lackluster flower, Miriam said, watching me, her eyes narrowing as they slid over the irises. I can't understand what your father sees in them. My insides nodded. Like most things Miriam said to me, there was an undertone of malice in her soft, well chosen words. My father kept irises in the house for a simple reason. Iris had been my mother's name. And it just felt like, I mean, you're telling me what it is, and you're also telling me that like Miriam's kind of a bitch, but there was no emotion behind it. It was just
Yeah. Yeah.
like, and maybe that's what it was, where it was just like, you're giving me information, but you're not really telling me how the character feels about it. They're like, just like everything else she says.
Mhm. Well,
Like,
and also
and also it's a weird thing for Miriam to know, like, why would she say, I don't know what he sees in them? It was a weird thing for her to say to bring on the exposition. She could have just said, like, such a lackluster flower and just left it at that. I can't understand what your father sees in them. You're well aware of what he sees in them, just as everybody else is. It's a silly thing to say about a dead wife. You could have just said, it's such a lackluster flower. It's so, and like, and even gone so far as to be like, you know, of all the flowers that you could choose from, it's such a basic one or something, and be more insulting as opposed to acting like, I don't know what he sees in them. It just felt like a flat um insult. And then the
well,
response to it is also like everything she says is like this. He said it
yeah.
because her name is Iris. And you're like, it just could have been done in a different way where it's like she could have been more insulting, slightly more veiled, I guess, but like more insulting, or say something about the irises being shitty flowers, and then be like, and then her eyes met mine, and she had a little like, smirk on her face, like she knew it would get to me, and be like, I had, balling up my fist. I knew why he kept irises in the house. They were my mother's name, blah blah blah, and like show a little bit more. But it was just information that I was like, okay, does that piss you off, or are you used to this? Like, what's happening here?
Well, and
Um,
because I think it feels dishonest for her to say, "I don't know why," and then well, she could say that, and then Elspeth needs to think she she's so she thinks she can like why is she so passive aggressive or why is she
yeah.
acting like she like she doesn't know that that's my mother's name or like
Mhm.
there's so many it's just the fact that yeah
It
Elspeth is
also
it does depict a sort of, like, depressive state for Elspeth, like, "Okay, this my stepmother just is rude about everything, and I'm reserved to it," but I think that needed to be driven home more as,
well, yeah,
like
and it didn't feel like a personal dig like it was, and it should have been a little bit more telling of the mom. So, like, we already know she's your stepmom. All you called her your stepmom, cool, so she's not your mom, And she made a snide remark. You're like, okay, so they're not on the greatest of terms. That doesn't mean that you fucking hate her. You could have made it very clear that you don't like her and she does not like you. And you could have
Yeah.
given me a little information about your mom without giving me information about your mom, right?
Mhm.
Could have said something like, such a peculiar flower, such a cursed little flower, or something that gave you a slightly more
Or
idea of
like,
like, what's going on with this girl's mom? Was she peculiar? Was she
I
lackluster?
know
Was she
Iris said they're
shitty?
for your mother, but they stink. Like,
Yeah.
something like,
Or just being like, I don't know, because her mom has a story and we only get it in a few lines in the second book.
yeah, and I would actually I like that because I think doing a backstory is not the move, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
I don't need the full backstory, but it would have been nice to have a little bit of a callback.
or just integrated throughout the story, like little pieces of her mom and things that, but like in the beginning,
Yeah.
I missed that heavily,
Can
because I actually think, I think my one of my biggest complaints with the writing was the exposition, specifically of the cards. Now, I will
mm,
say, a book where I would have said do a little key in the beginning
yeah.
because there's no. I think she explained what the cards all do like two times. Because I remember
Yeah.
reading it and being like, "Can you just say this?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, she's trying to get it because she's wants doesn't want us to forget." But I still forgot, and
Yep.
I was also annoyed when I read the initial exposition. This is actually a great candidate for having a little cheat sheet of what each card does, in the beginning or end of the book. I don't usually like those things, but this would have been perfect for it. And that's but I will say once we get past the exposition, that's when the book really picks up for me.
Yes. Can I be a pain in the ass and ask you to close out and reopen?
No, yeah. Oh,
Okay.
am I still frozen?
Yeah, you're still frozen and like it's fine and all, but now I'm getting distracted by my
Oh, that's funny. Okay, let me hit stop.
face. Okay.
Seconds. Okay.
Yeah, I think and maybe that's
Exposition.
what it was the exposition was just a little bit like it was just a little flat maybe at first. But then it definitely picked up and was totally like not a problem. But the beginning of the book I think is the hardest part, right? It's the hardest
Yeah.
part to write
A lot of
and
books.
it's the hardest part to get into. You're like learning a new world very quickly and it's like how that information gets is sort of given to you. But yeah, the cards were kind of hard to keep track of for a minute. I was like, what the fuck is happening here? Like at some point
I
I
just
think I
had to
was
have
sitting next
Caleb Google for me, and I was like, because I don't want to give spoilers. So I'm like,
there
can you just tell me what this card does?
there was a moment where I was I was sitting next to Topher and like, we're both quiet. He's on his phone and I'm reading and we're quiet. And I was just like, enough with these fucking cards. And he was like, it like made him jump. And he was like, what? And I was like, nothing. It's just the book. The only other thing, and this is 100% a me problem. When I'm reading rhyme, right? There's like a rhythm to which you're reading that rhyme, right? You're expecting it to hit whatever. It was so hard for my brain to turn off that like internal cadence of my reading when it went back to normal prose. And so there was so many times that I was just like reading the normal stuff and was just like da 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 and then it wouldn't rhyme and then it did it da 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 and then it wouldn't rhyme and I'm like fuck just read it like you're just reading Sam and like there was a couple of times where it took my brain a hard shift to go from like the riddle sort of um the rhythm of reading in rhyme versus the lack of that rhythm in narration.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because, like I said, the rhyme was not very good.
Yeah. But that was those are that's a me problem. That's in my own reading comprehension stuff.
No, I think no. Like I said, if good, the reason that we don't do rhyme is because we don't want to sound sing-songy because people don't. It's like just a different vibe,
Yeah.
and but also like it should be effortless. Good
Well,
rhyme.
and I was reading in that sing-songy voice even when we were
Yeah,
like in the chapters and I had to keep being like,
true.
okay, it's like
That's funny. I
stop.
did not
Just
have that. Because
yeah.
you know why? The fucking repetition would shut it down. And some of the best ones were when they didn't have repetition. And
Yeah.
I did like once I realized they were for like from the Book of Alders, I was like, okay, that's a little better.
Yeah.
Um okay. Magic smells of salt. Like ocean tides, it carries great balance. It wraps itself around the spirit of the wood, good and evil, love and hate, life and death. Can you smell it in the mist, in the cards, in your own house? Magic smells of salt. That would have been much more interesting without the second repetition.
Yeah.
There's no rhyme in that one, and it
Yeah.
honestly was better for it. But the
Yeah.
repetition makes it feel like there has been a rhyme when
Yeah.
there hasn't, and then it
Yeah.
feels like a flat rhyme.
Yeah.
And so it actually, I think it really fucks her vibe up.
Yeah.
Now again, if it is meant to be intentionally, well, no, if it's meant to be an intentional rhyme that is supposed to make this feel like a fairy tale vibe, it needs to be a better rhyme.
Mhm.
Or be clearer about how that flat rhyme serves the story, like the broken rhymes and stuff.
Yeah. So, but then, like, when it does rhyme, like, when I'm reading it out loud, this is how I would
Mhm.
end up also reading the prose, right? Nothing is free, nothing is safe. Magic is love, but also it's hate. It comes at a cost. You're found and you're lost. Magic is love, but it's also hate. Like, and so, like, that, like, cadence that I'm reading that in, that's what I'm doing in my head. And then I would get into the book itself and be like, it began in the night of the great storm. And they're like, wait, what? Hold on. The wind blew the
Uh-huh.
shutters out the casement. Oh, and I'm like, fuck, stop with that like rhythm, Sam. Like, you need to not read like that. That's not what this is anymore. And it took me so long to like shift out of those. And then the second I would shift out, the fucking nightmare would say some shit in a rhyme and be like, God damn it, here we are
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. Although his
But
rhymes I
yeah.
didn't mind as much for some reason.
Yeah, that's true. Once it was in the in it, within it, it flowed better. But yeah, that was it's just a me thing. It's just my brain like having a
It's
hard time.
funny.
I got
Well, I
ADHD, man. I
relate.
can't shift gears. I can't transition that fast.
When when I'm reading because they're on like little graphics, so my brain goes, okay. And
Yeah, mine
so you just read straight through?
well, because mine just is just I mean, it's kind of a graphic, but it's just a box.
Well, mine's like that.
So, yeah, like, you
But
can
for some
see I
reason, my
mean
brain just goes, all right. And then
yeah. No, mine did not. I'm trying to
it's
remember how
fine.
this book ends,
It
because
ends with her giving herself up to the king. We already said spoiler alert.
Mhm.
Um, it ends with her offering the alders card. Sorry, not her, Nightmare.
Right.
Uh,
It gives her yeah, so she gives herself over to her degeneration.
yes. Well, yeah. That's the dead last scene is her telling Prince Rowan that she's gonna go find the twin alders card, and she's because the last line is,
Yeah, but
"I
that's
know
not her
this
talking,
time
that's the
with
nightmare
her."
to like,
Sorry, yeah,
the
I
nightmare
did
has
say her.
completely t yeah, yeah, the nightmare is completely taken over.
Yes.
Now, the first book is all her POV, and then in the second book, we get multiple POVs.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about first book. For the story, I was very into. Other than the weird exposition at the beginning, I
Mhm.
was super I liked Raven right away. I liked her right away. I liked the kind of cautious banter that her and the nightmare have a little bit. Like, I liked seeing
Yeah.
their relationship being this something that was like it's long standing because he's been with her for 11 years, but also there's so many walls in between them. And then, like, her kind of figuring out things along the way of like, what is my degeneration? Oh, this means like, and then kind of having him be a little bit villainous in the first book still, where it was just like, I'm you're gonna lose yourself and I'm gonna take over. And she'd be like, I don't want that. And he's like, you asked for it every time. You have nobody to blame but yourself.
He
Like every
was
time.
sad about that even then though too, but yeah.
Yeah, but like it could also read as a like, you asked for it. Like, you'll have nobody to blame but yourself, babe. Like, you can't be mad at me. Like this, you every time that you've given me power, you've asked me to help you.
Mhm.
Um, and I think it was a little bit still like there were still boundaries between them with that. Like there was some resistance towards each other. There wasn't like, in the second book those walls come down and there's a the there's like a care that they have for one another.
Mhm.
And you can see some of that in the first book, but it's much more guarded, and I kind of liked seeing that like slowly like be a little curious about that. Be like, does she like she keeps telling him like get out, like I don't want you here, I want to be rid of you. And
Yeah,
even some of
yeah.
the things he says to her are like without knowing that there's a care there could be really kind of harsh.
Mhm.
um and he's a little bit blunt and straightforward and is like, my secrets are mine and mine to, long will I keep, and being like, you don't get to know everything. Yeah, I might share your head, but fuck off, kind of a thing. And I really liked that, like the dynamic of that push and pull between each other, that they wanted to push into each other, but also were very like, because, one of the themes in the book is, nothing comes for free.
Mhm.
And so being like, the more I have to sort of share with you, I'm expecting there's a reciprocity or there's a price to that sharing. And neither one of them are willing to pay that price to like be vulnerable with each other.
Mhm.
And you get to kind of see that unfold over time, and then start to see that like there's less and less cost for each other to be open with each other. So I really liked that. Um I liked that it wasn't completely obvious that her and Raven were going to be a thing.
Yeah, you were like, "I like Elm," and I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah." At
Yeah.
first you're like, "Oh, I just met Alex," and I was like, "He ain't the one."
Yeah, no,
Um,
and I knew he wasn't the one, but I was like, because you asked where I was, and I was like, I just met Alex, but
okay.
there was something about, I was like, that's not the guy.
Yeah.
But then there were a couple other, and I was just like, okay, well, like, what is there's Elm, there's Raven, there's some other stuff going on. I was like, it's like who's it was just a little bit. I think that Raven put up a good front, to not be like really obvious with his like looking at her, and like then there was some blushing and there was a little bit of this, and you're like, oh, okay, there it is, we're here. But it wasn't insta love, it wasn't. And even with her, there was like equal amounts of conversations about how people were attractive, and it wasn't just like he was so beautiful, like it wasn't as obvious. It was just like, you know he's a good looking
Mhm.
dude. Elm's a good looking dude. People are pretty here, and and then the maiden card comes into play, and beauty is a standard there. And so it didn't seem so much like a, this is the guy because she's so attracted to him kind of vibe.
At first, I thought it was Emery, and I was like, "Okay, we're having, like, drunk boyfriend." But I
Yeah.
realized he was, like, a kid. I thought he was, like, her age or something. I mean, he's not really he's, like, 16 or something?
Yeah, 16,
She's,
or
like,
I think he's
20?
17. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think she's, like, mid-20s or something. So but I didn't realize I thought he was just a regular, her age guy, so I was
Yeah.
like, "Okay, maybe this is the guy." Not that I try not to do
Yeah.
that either, but, like, I
Yeah.
just sometimes a little
But
bit,
yeah, it was a little bit like, I was like, okay, what's happening here? And I think that the progression of their romance seemed natural,
mhm.
and like some of the resistance that he had, I was like, okay, well, like he's attracted to her, but also being like, I don't want to, like, the being pretending of the courtship. I was like, there's a lot of reluctance here, but not in a way that was really obvious of like, this is a slippery slope. Don't make me do this because I'll fall for her. Like it wasn't it
I
wasn't as
hate
obvious.
that, I will say, I like that in hindsight, it makes more sense that he didn't wanna do it because he's infected, kinda like her,
Yeah.
'cause he's also afraid to,
Yeah.
like, you know? Um, and I like how I really was like, "Are we gonna do a miscommunication trope where, uh, I don't know, I was really pissed about that,
Yeah.
like, when she was, like, talking about, like, the nightmare card, I thought she were gonna spend the whole book and I was about to be so mad. I thought we were gonna spend the whole book being like, um, I can't tell him why, or just, like, not acknowledging that, like,
Yeah.
it's silly that she feels like she can't hide this, like, at some point, when I was like, "Are we gonna do this?" And
Yeah.
I knew I should be able to tell him, I knew it would make it so much easier if I could just tell him, but I'm too afraid. And I was like, "Okay, self-awareness fixes this
Yes.
communication trope, because if
Yeah.
it's just like, we're not gonna talk about the fact that I refuse to do this for 0 fucking reason,
Yeah.
it's a maddening. Like her
Yeah.
Zeta and Violet have one of those where it's just like, you're
Nope.
just being stupid and like,
That was
but if
that
you have
was
the self-awareness, like, "Well, I'm such a little coward," then
yeah.
okay, I'm on board with that.
Yeah.
But it was cold.
That
I was
yes.
like,
I
"No,
did not I
feel
was
this way
not
now."
annoyed the same way. The series I read
I was
before, they
about
have
to
a
be.
yeah, they have a miscommunication trope the same way,
Mhm.
where she's just like, I don't want to be his mate because blah, 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 and like I was like, this is such an easy conversation. All you literally like, and it wasn't, there
Why
was
are
no like,
you
I'm
mad
afraid
about
to
that?
tell him, my feelings are gonna be hurt. I don't want like, it was just like, it was just her going on and on and on and on about like, well, either I'm gonna be stuck with him, or he's gonna get what he wants and he's gonna leave me. And like
Yeah.
neither one of those seems like good options. So all she would have had to say was, this doesn't seem like it's gonna end well.
Yeah.
And
Or
I
even
don't,
like
or like anything. But yeah, but with this one, with her being like, I can't tell him this because also the stakes are already way ramped, right? The
yes.
stakes in the other book were not there. I was like, whatever. What's the worst thing that happens? You have a super hot guy who falls in love with you. Fuck off.
Mhm.
This one, the stakes are higher, right? Like she could be killed for this, and even
Yeah.
though he's also infected, he's royalty. He's
We don't
the
find that out for
captain
a
of the
long time.
yeah, he's captain of the guard, right? And like she's like, no, I can't tell anybody this. And also, we understand that her trauma is that she has had to pretend and keep it and keep it and keep it. And so even acknowledges that, like, I've had to keep this secret for so long. I've had to pretend for so long. I don't know how not to. It's very hard to
Yeah.
open up when I have it, like, this is what would get me and my whole family fucking killed. And
And
so
she
it,
says that to him too.
yes.
And very early on, you hear Elm being like, "This bitch is there's something wrong with her,"
Yeah.
So like it's not they're not playing dumb either. But
And
that it was
they didn't necessarily let it affect their, like, their shit either, right? It was like when you
she
have a
lied to
secret.
me.
Yeah, yeah,
I was really mad about that.
and it wasn't like, "I can't be with you," and you're like, "Why?" And then it's like, "Because I couldn't tell him." Like, no, it was like, "No, I'm gonna do the things, I'm gonna feel the things, and I'm gonna
If we're
sleep
gonna
with
fuck,
you,
but
and
I'm
I'm
not
gonna
gonna
do
tell
all this
you.
stuff, but I'm still not gonna tell you, and I'm gonna feel guilty about not telling you."
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense.
Yes.
But just being like, telling them, "I can't be with you," and he's like, "Why? Because you are infected, so am I. Like, we're already in this thing together." And she's like, I I just can't." And then like running away. I'm like, that's so lame. Like that's
Mhm.
annoying. But the way that this
Yeah.
one was done, where it was like, especially because there's moments where she's like, he may hate me when he finds out, but I'm gonna take this moment. And because that's what you would
Yeah.
do. You're like, I am falling for
That
this
is what
guy,
yeah.
so I'm just fuck it. I mean, my heart's already in it, so let's just
Figure it
go.
out later. Yeah.
And hopefully he forgives me for lying for to him, because I'm not I'm not ready to tell the world what's in my head.
Mm. I will also say Raven is just likable. Like
Raven. Raven
strangely
is likable.
likable. I don't really like I don't know, he just I just there's something about him. Like and I'm not like give me a shadow daddy. I guess he's kind of quasi shadow daddy. Wait, is he
Yeah.
even have like for some reason I picture him like dark hair. Maybe because his name's Raven.
He
He
has
has like
dark hair.
dark hair, right?
He has dark
Okay.
hair.
So I
Mhm.
picture him just like a little sad boy emo
Mhm.
boy type of thing.
Mhm.
Although he's supposed to be some kind of like badass fighter, so maybe he's more buff than him. I'm picturing like skinny emo.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't necessarily
emo.
I picture him like lean and fit, maybe not like, not Cassian, but lean, fit, whatever. He's in shape. Dark hair, gray eyes, um big hooked nose.
I know some of this fan art isn't getting it right. They're giving him
Yeah,
cute
no,
little
they're
noses.
all like, yeah,
I
but
haven't looked at fan art at all yet. I'm just looking
I
right
haven't
now.
either. But I also like that there was not every single person was flawlessly perfect, and the people who were, it was like, oh, this is because of this maiden card, and they look like almost like
Yes.
bad perfect.
Yeah, like
Um
plastic surgery gone wrong or yeah.
yeah, or just being like, it's so flawless that it looks wrong. And like, you know, it's one thing when she tells Ione, like, I like your gap tooth, I like your freckles, I like the imperfections or whatever. But then it was
Mhm,
like hearing Elm say the same thing and just being like, those are like the freckles on your face and your laugh lines. And then also having Ione at some point being like, I used to have lines here, and I used to have, my face looked different, and I used to
mhm,
feel things, and like kind of coming to terms with that, and like being like, no, these are things that marked me as me, and the maiden took that away from me, and I
mhm.
don't actually like that it was taken away from me. She was like, there's like a flatness and a falsity. I think we can have a whole conversation about the indictment of the beauty industry with this book. But I
Mhm.
think that that's kind of, I liked that there, and even with Raven, like, he's not the most beautiful thing she's ever seen. He's not
He has a
flawless, he's
big
not perfect.
nose.
He has a big nose, it's hooked, right? That the king's
Which
nose has been broken. And even like the green eyes, they're not just like, oh, you could fall into the depths of their eyes because they're so, like, it was like, no, it's a marker of the Rowan family
they're
that they
just
have
green
green
eyes, yeah.
eyes. And
Yeah.
I feel like there was kind of less. And even when he's talking about how pretty she is. He's like, "Well, yeah, I'm not blind. Of course she's attractive, but and I just felt like it was so much more about, you know, you find out what is pretty about these people because it's pertinent to the story and
Mhm,
not because it's supposed to fill that like ooh space.
mhm. I think I would have liked it if Raven was a little slower too, but maybe it's like maybe it's
I think
just
it's a
me and brain.
duology. I guess, I mean, if she had stretched it out for 4 books, then yeah, it could have been way more of a slow burn.
Well,
But
I don't mean I just like right away, like first meeting with first time you hear him be like a little bit like I think she's cute is like at that meeting, and I'm
yeah,
like, should it be a little bit later where
yeah,
he's like, um, I don't know, but it's fine.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, maybe
yeah,
not. I mean, the first time you see, I mean, that's not true. A lot of times you meet someone for the first time and it takes you a minute to like really look at them before you find them attractive.
I think
But I think
I'm
that
like
there's
that.
also something to yeah, but I think there's also something to be said where you're just like, yeah, I mean, I have eyes, they're attractive, but that doesn't mean I'm going to like them or that I want to be near
Yeah,
them or whatever. And like I think that there was a good
it's true.
getting to know the person and the like the character connections that surpassed that. Like I think it was nice to have that initial like he's attractive, she's attractive, fine, and
Mhm.
there could be like a physical attraction to each other, but that wasn't the driving force. It was the working
Yes,
together, the trusting
and
each
that was a
other,
slow
that like
burn. Mhm.
yeah. And that
Yeah,
I appreciated. It wasn't just like, oh, he brushed my hand and I was on fire and needed to
I know
fuck
those
him
are
right
really
then and there.
ridiculous.
Like those are a little bit much.
Well, and I
And
think I am like I'm not. I'm someone who like I feel like when I see somebody, I can like I take them in, but I'm kind of like almost face blind to them. Like they don't
mhm,
look like a person, or I don't find any sort of attraction until I know them, and
yeah,
then I'm like, oh, that's a nice quality, and then I start to.
yeah,
It's like I I'm trying to figure out like back to like acquaintances. I'm like, is that person attractive? I'm like, I don't know. They just look like a person, and I
yeah.
think that's weird. Like the more like sometimes I'll talk to Caleb about this or like other people, and I'm like, no, I think I'm a weirdo actually. Um, like, I think
I get
we
you,
just
but
are
there are people who are striking to me when I first see them. Like there are people where I'm like, wow, that's a
sometimes.
pretty human being. But
Yeah.
yeah, but then that can easily detour into different places depending upon what they're like. Like I can see someone who is very attractive and I'm like, wow, hello, gorgeous. And then they open their mouth and I'm like, never mind. Or
Oh,
even the opposite, where I'm like, oh, you're a totally normal looking human and there's nothing that's, necessarily
and then they
noteworthy
say
over
something, you're
anybody
like,
else, and then they
profound.
say something and you're like, "Oh, hello, okay."
Mhm,
And I think that that's a lot more fun than them being attractive right off the bat. Like when
mhm.
you get to know somebody and you're like, "Oh, I like the below the surface." Like,
And
and I
that's
think
what
that that's
last
kind
night.
of yeah, and I think that that's what we get between Elspeth and Raven, is that there's more than just this initial physical attraction, that they get to know each other and they like each
Mhm.
other and they trust each other in ways that they don't necessarily trust other people. Um,
'Cause they're like quasi father and son.
yeah, yeah,
I'm just kidding, I'm just
uh-huh.
kidding. Is that the mysterious
Yeah, that's
connection?
his
Is
great,
that
great,
Nightmare
great.
since that is
Yeah,
his
she is
son?
his great, great, great granddaddy.
Ah,
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah. You're
funny.
like, wait, what?
Yes, they were strangely attracted, not because they're mates, because they're father-son.
Yeah,
Because
there
their alter
are.
egos are father-son.
I will say that the theorizing. I think I guessed most of the things that would happen.
I think this book was pretty guessable, but I wasn't mad about it. I will say I was okay. L.J. Andrews, the first of the Broken Kingdom series, very guessable. I did not give a shit. This book, slightly a little too guessable. I was like, I wish it wasn't just what I thought. Um, but I still wasn't that mad about it. But I would say
There,
L.J.
there
is
was.
like a great example of it, and this is about 90% of like, no, really
I
try a little harder. It's
I
fine.
liked that I could guess it because it's what I wanted it to be, if
Well,
that makes sense.
that's
Like,
like how I
that's what I was
this
excited about
book.
because I was just like, "I think that the nightmare is the king." And then it happened, I was like, "Fuck yeah, the nightmare is the king." Like, I was
Yeah.
excited about what it meant for the story because I was like, "Now that's a cool thing." Like, now okay,
Okay.
now the Shepherd King. But I did note the second she had that first dream that he showed her where it was like he was in armor, and I was like,
And he was
"Oh,
in the room, I was like, "That's the room in Raven's house, and
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah."
the
I was
guy."
like,
Like,
that's who this is."
yeah,
And then it took me
maybe
maybe
that's
a
what it
couple more
too
times where I was like
they're
I was like,
too
"Oh,
personal.
Yeah, and then, like, there were just a couple times where it was like, "Oh, that was his cat, like, he was this was that castle."
Of course so.
He's and I was like, "He's related to the U's, like, there has to be some connection
Yeah.
here." And so, yeah, it didn't take
Yeah.
a lot of brain power to theorize, but I was also really satisfied that that's where the story went.
Yes, I think the idea is cool. Yeah, I think actually it's just a matter of execution. She
Mhm,
planted a really clear dream where
mhm,
like I think if she had said like a more like absurd kind of more dreamlike dream where she walks into this place and she sees like maybe like bright sunlight coming through a window, but it's so bright it disorients her, and she
yeah,
sees like some gold armor and she feels a presence. That kind of thing I think would be more interesting and more, it's not like it's trying to disguise it, it's still like giving that scene, but
mhm,
or maybe it's a recurring dream she has of this window, and it like
yeah,
maybe at times or of like this room,
the
and
stone,
at
yeah,
times sees different aspects of it, and then she realizes as she walks into the real thing, like, "This is what I've been seeing."
yeah,
That dream where I was sitting in a dark place and the moonlight was above, that's this room. Oh, and it's all the same dream. Like, I feel like there's so many ways you could do this, not that there's a right way, but I just think, like, it was so clearly, like, you just had this, or if it like one of the first, if it was a prologue where he was sitting there or something,
yeah,
and she wakes up or something, like, it was too close to the scene where it was introduced.
yeah.
It was just like, "Come on." Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
I did like the pacing of these books. I thought the pacing was really well. I thought
they
the
go quick.
story yeah, the story unfolded in, like, a way that made sense for, like, "Okay, cool, new thing, new thing, new thing." Um, there wasn't any, like, "Oh, we're gonna drone on about this problem for another 7 chapters," like, because
Yeah.
like, the
The things I was
entirety
afraid
of
of didn't quite happen. Like, I
yeah,
was like, "Oh, no, are we gonna do this?" And I was like,
like, a
"No, we're not."
majority of Fourth Wing or not Fourth Wing, the second one of Fourth Wing, which is
Iron Flame?
yeah, the majority of Iron Flame is her just being like, "You need to tell me everything," and I'm like, "Oh my god, I don't care."
I don't remember
Um,
that well. I just read those
ye
so
yeah, and, like, there was none of that where I was like, "We're still harping on the same shit over and over." I
Mhm.
did not get that feeling with these books at all.
No.
Um,
And I liked
I
it, there's a lot of y yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I think I liked the second book more than the first one, which is crazy.
I gave the
Usually
first one 4 stars and the second one 5.
yeah, like again, the first one is very good, but that second one, oh my god, my heart. I thought it was very, very clever that in the Elsbeth POV chapters, it's in first person narrative, but
Mhm.
in Raven and Elms, it's in third person.
Yeah.
But you still very much get their perspective. I kind of thought that that was fun and different and kind of smart to do it that way.
Mhm.
Um, I love the shit talking and the smart ass comments
Mhm.
and the banter and all of
I
it.
really like
Elm
vibes.
has some real snarky little things to say sometimes, and I'm like,
I knew you were gonna
okay.
love him.
He's also kind of a dirty little boy, and I was here for that.
There's only, like, 1, oh, there's 2 sex scenes,
No, but I
right?
mean the way that he and Ione talk to each other when they're flirting, there's like, where he goes to rip her dress and she's like, "Rip it like now." And he's like, "Beg me." And I'm like, "Okay.
Yeah! Okay,
Hello, Elm." uh
okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
okay, I
then
remember that.
I love that she has enough like to kind of throw that back in his face where she's like, "Would it surprise you if I told you if we weren't
Kinda
interrupted I would have
sassy.
stayed?" And he's like, "To what end?" And she's like, "Do you want me to give you all the details of what we would have done?" He's like, "Yes." And she's like, "All of the details?" And he's like, "Absolutely." And then she like leans forward and she's like, "Beg me." And I'm like, "Oh, yes, girl. You could like
That's
throw like,
funny.
and like the him talking about like the game that they play where he's like, I told her to like, to toy with me, but they do it in a way that's not manipulative with each other, and he's
Mm,
still very kind, and he's very, I don't know, he's got a little bit of like just enough of that, like he's got the bad boy persona where everybody thinks that he's this like rotten brute, but underneath he's very soft and he's a little bit traumatized or very traumatized, and he's loyal, Andy's a smart ass. I'm like, that's mine. Like, you can have Raven all day long. I'm taking Elm. It's just, I
I
was so
know.
here for Elm. I was like,
That's
that is,
like what Ren is like, right? Your character
yes.
Ren? Okay.
Which is
Yeah.
also funny because Elm could have gone by Ren. His name is Renelm.
Yeah,
And I was like,
I
oh,
love
he's
that they gave him a tree name, but, like, it wasn't it's a nickname. For I was like,
yeah,
"Yes, yes, thank you."
yes, yes.
Um, oh,
Um,
okay, hold on. We have to talk about trees as an expletive because that is so stupid. Oh, I think it gets better when they say, like, something like where you add a word to it, like flaming trees, what the fuck? Like, that's okay. Better,
trees take me,
trees like an image, but
roots
just saying
take me.
trees, like
Yeah.
yeah,
I I thought it was I thought I was fine with it. It made me, like,
for a
chuckle
while, but when I first
because
heard it, I was like,
it's kind of like just saying, like, Jesus.
"Yeah," but, like, it's okay, I barely tolerate them in other books, like, when people say gods don't do that to me, I'm like, just why do we need to substitute, like, a god?" I just am like, when Broadbent does it, I'm like, barely tolerating this right now."
Well,
Uh,
okay, what I do like
yeah,
with Broadbent is Ix's tits. That's because that's like,
yes.
Jesus fuck. Like, that's
'Cause that's
Ix's tits, like,
because
that
that
works.
is what some like okay like slurs and cuss words and like taboo things they get made up in fucking bars at 3 a.m. and try to you know what I mean like
Yeah.
that is some shit some people would make up. You have a god named Ix, you're gonna be like
Yeah,
somebody's
yeah.
gonna put that together,
Well,
you know what I
especially
mean?
because she's the god of sex, yeah,
Exactly, so like
yeah.
that feels very human and natural, but there is something else in that series that I'm like,
Son, take me.
the what?
Son, take me.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
I
Even,
tolerate it.
like, Cauldron Boil Me, you're like, "No, but
uh
really? Fuck?
You know,
Seriously?"
I
Yeah.
think actually, Merlin's beard from Harry Potter, I kind of get behind you know why? Because it's like some shit that somebody would say, you know?
Mhm.
They need to be, like, whimsical in a very specific way,
Yeah.
and I am such a little freak about it that I just kinda
If
overlooked
they
it,
had
but
just said
trees, I was like, girl, you cannot be doing
if if they had just said "fucking trees," it might have worked.
yeah, or like, you know, all the roots in the world, like, something like
Mhm.
that is okay okay, I can see it, or like,
Mhm.
but just saying trees
Mhm.
just by itself,
I
maybe
was here for it.
maybe
I thought
like
it
or
was, like, yeah, it was a thing that I was like, "That's weird and funny." It didn't
yeah.
bother me at all, but I did have a moment where I was like, "Really? We're just saying trees?" Um, especially because everyone's named after trees, so really you're just saying people?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I don't know.
yeah.
But yeah, I was fine with it. But yeah, it is a funny little quirky, like, I don't know if that works perfectly for what you're trying to do,
I
but
can deal with it,
yeah.
yeah, and I get over these things, like,
Which
I
is
have
funny when
big pet peeves like that.
when you when you text me and said we need to talk about trees, I didn't catch on to
You know?
that's what you meant. I was like, yeah, because there's rowan and
There's
elm
lots
and
of trees.
yews and all these things. And then I was like, oh no, she means trees as an expletive.
Yeah,
And I was like, oh right, that's yeah, we do. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna come up with a bunch of ways when I write my book. When as I'm writing my book, I'm like, I'm gonna need to figure out like, here's the things that I think could make sense. Now, do they work for you?
oh, you know what one I don't like is rutting, that's from Throne of Glass, I
Throne
think?
of Glass. It's because she doesn't say fucking.
Yeah, but I just there's something about it that it was like, ugh, I
Well,
don't know.
it feels I every
That's
time
such
I
a
hear it, I think
bummer.
I'm reading Harry Potter. It
They well,
feels
they say
very
ready, not with 2 Ds.
yeah, but it feels for some reason it feels very like
Oh, it does feel
you
British.
it feels British
Yeah,
specific, and then it takes me out of the fantasy.
interesting. I
So
just was like
every time I read it, I just switch it for fuck or fucking.
yeah, rude
Like
gesture.
you've lost your rutting mind. Oh, you've lost your fucking mind. Fine,
Yeah,
cool.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think cuss words are so hard to do. It's kinda like, do you change like, you need things to be seamless, and that's why I'm kind of okay with regular cuss words,
Yeah.
fantasies over, like, custom cuss words
Yeah.
because It's like, in Moonhash how we changed the word today. It's not
Yeah.
necessary, it's just gonna make people think more about things that they
Mhm.
shouldn't be thinking about, like,
Yeah.
you know? Um,
I was pleasantly surprised by who ended up on the throne because in the first book, his little rhyme for Ione, he's like, yellow girl this, yellow girl that, yellow
won't be
girl
queen.
won't be queen. And then in
Yeah,
the second book it says it again and I was like, okay, here we go. Like she's not, and that's why I kind of liked it because I was like, okay, well, so Hoth is gonna die maybe, and Elma's gonna get on the throne, and then Ione will be queen. But it said she wasn't going to, so then no. And so I kept being like, Raven is gonna end up as king, and then I loved that was the twist that he was like, no, if I usurp the Rowan and put you on, that will be Blunder's undo. It will be it's like it's ravishing. It'll be the same thing over and over again. Elm needs to be the king because he is neither Rowan nor you, but something in between, and he's the balance.
yeah.
And I loved that. And then the fact that like she still ends up as queen, I think that she's very queenly. I love that because I don't know that Elspeth would be. I mean, she'd be a fine queen, but there's something about Ione and being like she
She
sees
gets
the
me.
she yeah, and she sees the world in optimism in ways that I think is necessary for that world and the leadership and going forward, where I think that Elsbeth and Raven still have too much pessimism.
Yeah, because 'cause they've been, like, the victims who are like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
whereas Ione's just seen them being
yeah.
unfairly
Well,
victimized
and
and also still been able to just have a normal life, so she sees both sides.
I think that Raven and Elspeth see what they want the world to be, but they don't know that it can be that.
Mhm.
Where Ione and Elm see what the world should be.
Yeah.
Like, and not necessarily, they're not like, I wish it was better. It's like, no, this should be better. Like
Mhm.
the slight shift there of like they both see the same things, but I see that like Raven and Elspeth don't necessarily know that it's a possibility. It's more of a wish. Whereas Ione and Elm are like, no, we could be better.
Mhm.
And
And
so
it
there was something about that shift. I think Elm as king, love it. Love the Elm King, here for it
Mhm,
all day
mhm.
long.
King of the Elves.
Um,
I think also, like, on something like symbolically, Raven and Elspeth were always hiding themselves, and now they get to be their true self. Whereas I
yeah.
feel like when people in office, you're always like putting on some kind of
Yep.
veneer. So it
Yeah.
kind of works almost better that like, well, and also at the same time, like, Elm is coming out as a nice guy type of thing
Mhm.
when he becomes
Yeah.
king, and he's not this asshole everyone thought he was. And but Ione also is, like, um, emerging from this also veneer that she's had to put on.
Yeah.
It's like they get to step into their true selves, which is
Yeah.
decisions, whereas, like, I feel
Yeah.
like it would be hard for
Yeah.
Raven and they're still gonna be integral. It's not like Elm's gonna
Yeah.
be like, "Now I'm king and I decide everything and you guys fuck off." Like,
Mhm.
they're still gonna be, like, making
Yeah.
helping. But I
Well, and
think
I
also
think they're also in positions to be able
younger
to see the pros and cons of magic and
yeah,
being like they're in a position where it makes more sense for them to be like if you want to be healed, you can. If you don't want to, then you don't have to. Where Raven and Elspeth I think are much more attached to it as being like like this shouldn't be something that we've ever had to hide. This is a part of me I would never want to change,
yeah,
where there's a little bit more fluidity and balance with Elm and Ione being like, no, this should be a personal choice. That like if you want this, then great. If you see it as a blessing, great. And if you don't, then you don't have to have it. Um,
yeah. Oh, and I wasn't even talking about, like I just meant, like, Elm has been hiding who he is. Ione's
mhm,
been forced to hide who she is because of the maiden card,
yeah.
so symbolically, it's kind of
Hmm.
interesting for them to be, like, such public personas after all
Yeah.
that.
Well, and even
Uh,
before that, right? Elm is still hiding under this like
mhm.
soldier second born asshole sort of vibe, and
Yeah.
Ione before that was just this like kind of giggly airheady sort of
Yeah, she probably wasn't also who she truly like, Elspeth probably never thought like, when she's like, "Oh, let's go to the festival," or whatever it's
yeah,
called, she probably Elspeth does not see her as someone who, like, "Oh, I'll do the marriage because 'cause I'm gonna change shit." That's not
exactly.
something she sort of
And
hides.
I do love that there was a little bit of there's still hiding between those two. And so then when Ione is like, I saw a place where I could get some power and like the betrayal of that not just being like, oh, she wants to be a princess, betrayal, or
Mhm.
she wants to be pretty betrayal, but being like, I didn't even think it was a possibility, like the capacity of your mind to want power. I thought you were just a happy girl
Yeah.
and seeing the world in shades of fucking trees. And here you are telling me that you wanted like what? Like and so I felt like it was
Mhm.
more of it was not a surface level betrayal where it was just like you're going to do all this to be pretty. Ione was like, "No, you dumbass. Like I saw a place where I could carve out some space for me."
Yeah.
And Elspeth being like, "You've never indicated that you've wanted anything more than what you've already had."
And yeah, they
What?
both hid stuff from each other. Like, I've been having a
Yeah.
voice in my head for 11 years.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
you know. Um, I do kind of think that there should have been a little bit more Ione Elspeth like build up before they got separated.
Yeah.
Or before like we got like you actually get a really for how like little time we get with the two of them together and to see their relationship. It's I think it's pretty well done because there's like one little scene and
Yeah.
then maybe one and a half, I guess. Um but I think a lot was established in that, but I think a little
Mhm.
bit more time to that would have been nice. But whatever.
I do like that you get the vibe very early on that they have the type of familial relationship that feels like siblings, that feels like
Yeah.
that unconditional, like, I just love them. Like, I don't, it's not, I'm
Yeah.
not over them. Like, it's not, it's just a very simple fact. That's family. And
Mhm.
it's kind of, it can be a little, it can sound a little flat, right? You're like, oh, they have secrets. You're like, yeah, but that's my sister. That's my
Mhm.
cousin. Like, that's family. It just is what it is. I'm always going to be here for them. And I think that at some point, Raven and um, Jesper have that same thing where like they have like kind of their weird little banter or whatever, but then every time he's like, "Are you there?" and she's like, "Right behind you." Like, "I'm always right here. I'm always like I always got your back." And then when that role shifts where she's like, "Where are you?" and he's like, "I'm right behind you." Like that same like that kind of shift. I feel like they have that same, and even with Emery, it's just like that's my brother. It's like it doesn't matter if they've kept secrets or that they're infected or that they're not or that they fucked up. Like that's my family
Yeah.
in a way that is, there's problems with that in the real world, but in this book, I just kind of like that it was just the vibe was like, oh, there's an unconditional love between these people, and I don't need to see the full story of that. I got it. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like,
Which I
yeah,
think is
people
how
have
you should
secrets.
do
Yeah, I'm like, people have
exposition.
secrets. People, even when you're the closest to somebody, there are still things that you just don't tell people, and that's fine too. And then when those secrets come out, you're like, okay, but you're still my person. Okay.
Mhm.
Like it's just
Yeah.
another part of you. I loved you before I knew. Why would it change me after I knew? You're still the same person, kind of a thing.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. It's cool. What did you think about our villain? I like Hoth as a villain. Um he's kind of like Joffrey vibes.
yeah. Uh-huh.
He's frustrating, but he's also like that was the one thing that surprised me actually. Hoth actually surprised me. A lot of the stuff I could guess and I was like,
Hmm.
"Oh, it's a little too obvious," but the Hoth stuff actually caught me off guard.
Yeah, Hoth is
Um
much more fucked up the more we know about him. At first glance, you're like, oh, he's just a dick. It's fine, whatever. But then being like, oh, he threw her out of a window. Like
yeah, you're like, "Oh, he is
he's a villain. He's intense.
serious."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I liked the explanation of why he is the way that he is because it's not compelling in the sense that I feel bad for him, but it also is very much like it's generational trauma without throwing that in my face over and over and over again. But they're like, it's 500 years of Rowan rule, and you learn through pain and carrying the scythe card. Like, you have to rule is to be in pain. And like, and he says, even
Mhm.
like, even when Elm complains about the things that Hoth did to him, he was like, it's an education in pain. It's what you need. It's what all Rowan boys get. Like, fuck off. Like, stop being a little bitch about
Yeah.
it, and like when you have sons you'll learn it too. And like kind of seeing those things said without the exposition of being like everyone had to go through this, all of it, and like, but you
Mhm.
get it a number of times where it's like you see. And even with Brutus like being kind of like the OG villain for like the for the Shepherd King, you see why he shifted, right? It's like he felt betrayed. He felt like he lost his friend, and then his friend took his fucking sister in there and he lost his
His
wife.
wife,
And it was
yeah.
like, and so like you kind of see where he thinks he's doing the right thing, even though he's not doing the right. And then it goes crazy overboard by killing kids and all the things. But like you see
Yeah.
where you're like, okay, I mean, I can get where he's coming from a little bit. It's fucked up and I wouldn't do that. But like there's a little bit of something that is compelling in the characters. But with Hoth, the only reason why it works for him to just be fucking evil is because you know that there's this long generation of like that's just ingrained in him, and so he can't rise above anything else. Not that he was born evil, but he's been made this way. He's been taught like the education that you get to be a king is an education in pain. Like
Yeah.
the way that you dole out things, the way that you keep power is through fear. And like it worked for me to, because there's are some villains where you're like, oh, they just want power, and that's that they're evil because they want power. And yes, very simply, Hoth is evil and he wants power, but there was
Mhm.
something that was still like I was good with being like, oh, this is the bad guy and he's just bad. There's nothing that's worth saving
Y
for him.
Well, and it's like he thinks he's doing what his family's honor demands of him as
Yeah,
being this person,
yeah,
and being ruthless, and, if in a way he's an overachiever because he's like, "My job's to keep power," it doesn't
yeah,
feel like sometimes that's when characters, I think villains feel flat, is when it just seems like, "I just want power just 'cause."
yeah,
You wanna see like, "Oh, what has this person benefited from with
yeah.
power?"
Mm-hmm.
And, in him, he's been adored by his dad because
Mm-hmm.
for being ruthless
Yeah,
and like a Rowan,
yeah,
whereas Elm has been ostracized for it.
yeah.
Um, and,
I
yeah.
really, really love the shift of so when we find out that Brutus has been using the scythe to torture criminals, and
Yes.
compelling them to do like fucked up shit and to hurt them.
Mhm.
And the Shepherd King like says, if you use it for violence again, like I'll kill you, get out or whatever. And then, and so this is in the second book, kind of, a little bit further than midway.
Mhm.
And so you've seen the scythe be used over and over and over for these really fucked up things.
Yeah.
And then when he finally is like, you're not going to sit on the throne, Raven. I'm not giving you the throne. I'm giving it to Elm. Like, I gave Brutus Rowan the scythe and he used it for horrible things. And never once has Elm used the scythe to hurt somebody.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's what I wanted like, from a Rowan. That's what I wanted for the king, for a leader in this place. And I thought it was a great callback to be like, we see how there's a direct scene where he's arguing about this with Brutus. We've seen this scythe card get used in fucked up ways this whole time. And then there's like a recognition from the character being like, no, this is why I'm choosing him to sit on the throne, is because he did exactly what I hoped would come from that card.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And they delete all the those ones, right? Pretty sure they destroy all the scythes.
They destroy all of the nightmares. They don't
Yes.
destroy all of the scythes, I don't think. Maybe they do.
Oh, I thought they did at the end. Maybe not. But
Well,
yeah.
because there's four scythes. One
One
of them
is
was
the one
destroyed by
that
Bennett.
mhm.
One gets destroyed
I
by
ra
Raven, and I don't know about the other two
I think
because Ione has one at the end. Oh, so then one gets destroyed
in the
in
deck,
uh in the deck, and then I
and
don't know
then
about.
I feel like they destroyed the last one.
I can see Elm having kept one because he was the only one who used it for not brutality.
Okay, someone on Reddit says they destroy all the scythe cards
Okay,
and the
that's fine.
nightmare card. Okay,
Um,
but
I mean, the mirror card still exists. There's still the Black Horse cards still exist.
I
The
think all the rest of the
chalice,
cards.
there's the chalice, yeah, but I think all the scythe cards and the nightmare cards get destroyed.
One in the deck, one they destroy. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I thought that the a lot of the ending was interesting. Oh, what did you think about the book split? Because a lot of complaints about modern like current day duologies is that they don't really need to be a duology. Because like probably I could see this being one big book, but well, okay, I will say the ending is a little bit like, in terms of pacing wise, they got all cards except for the Alder card, so you have one clear mission for the end is to get the Alder card, Twin Alders card. Um, and I do think, like, the second book very clearly is like, "Oh, and now this is Nightmare's book,"
Mhm.
and so that's why I think it's justified.
Mhm.
But I kinda do think it could have been one, like, 800-page book, and that would have also been fine. But, no, I kinda like it.
I
I
like
do.
that it was split. I think
Yeah.
the tones and I think that it makes sense
It
because
does have a big tone shift,
it has a
actually, yeah.
big tone shift, and I think it makes more sense because, yes, we have a very Elsbeth forward book in the first one, and then the second one, she's not running the show anymore. It's very much more and you learn so much more about, I mean, everybody really, but you actually start it's much more of the king's book at that point.
Mhm.
Um,
I guess she has a tragic arc in the beginning in the first
yeah,
book.
I can't imagine how that would be with the different point like, could you imagine if you were reading
Oh,
an 800-page book and then 400 pages in, all of a sudden you get a third person point of view from Elm?
true, okay,
You'd be
that's
like,
good.
"What the fuck?" Yeah,
Yeah,
that would be
because
jarring.
I do think, like, yeah, duologies have become popular and have become
Mhm.
like, "Oh, do this because more money,"
Yeah.
but, I was just
I
curious
no,
if you
I think it made perfect sense for this to be a duology.
I thought the ending of the first one was, sort of cliffhangery and doesn't feel as,
Mhm.
like, this is a it doesn't feel like it could stand by its own. Um, like, it doesn't feel like she has much of an arc, but I was like, maybe it's actually because she has a tragic arc. She
Yeah.
degenerates, she
Yeah.
loses herself,
Yeah.
and so instead you have a book where she has one
Well,
tragic arc and one actual, like,
yeah, well,
real arc.
you have, like, the I don't know, you have, like, a shift. You have it's maybe not a full arc, but you have the antithesis. There's like a 180 split, right? It
Well,
starts where she's in control and the nightmare lives in her brain and is trapped and kinda says stuff, and then at the end of that, you have that full shift where, like, now she's in the back seat and really kind of lost altogether, and the nightmare is running the show, and so I
yes.
think that there's, like it's flipped on its head, and
Mhm.
so, yeah, it definitely doesn't feel like a full arc, but that's fine because I
I'm
think
just
it's
thinking in
okay.
terms of the book, like, because the book
Mhm.
I do sort of subscribe to, like, a book should feel like it has a true arc, but then I was
Fair.
like, "Wait, this is just a tragic it's
Yeah.
technically a tragedy because
Yeah.
she loses herself at the end, but that
Yeah.
is an arc still." But I was
Mhm.
thinking about, like, she it felt like the dad thing was, like, very kinda loosely, "Okay, now he gave me the card," and that's it didn't feel a little anticlimactic. It did feel like an ending with, like, the big scene with her and Hoth, um,
Yeah.
but
It kinda felt like
I do
it
like this.
stopped on, like, the all is lost moment,
Yes.
that's where it ended. Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, ending with, like, "Okay, now we have to find one more alder card the last card." I was like, I don't know, I was just thinking about it, but
It
I
might have
kinda
been
like
able to, like
the three
it could have maybe ended a little bit better if there was, like, a final Raven chapter where he goes down there and they're like, "Well, then let's go find this card," or something,
I
right?
think
Where,
they
like
do that kind of
do
actually,
they? Uh,
because I think the last chapter is in Raven's perspective. Oh, maybe it's in Nightmare's perspective, and that's why it's in third person. I was like, yeah. Yeah, it's in
but
Nightmare's
I was totally fine with it being a duology. I thought it made sense,
mhm,
especially with the
yeah.
tone shift.
I wouldn't have liked it to be a trilogy. I think it needed 2 books is a
2
good
was plenty.
3 would
Yeah.
have been too many.
Mhm.
I think if it was 3, it would have had, like, the first time where like, what would they have stopped after getting one of the all but the well card or something? Like, I don't know. You would have to
Yeah.
actually have much more stuff. There's not enough for
Yeah.
3 books, but
It would have
2 that
dragged out too much. I think the pacing was great.
mhm.
I adored the Jesper Tilly like similarities where when Jesper gets magic, she gets Tilly's magic. She gets the magic to heal. I thought that that made
Oh,
sense and was
how did he know that? Was it just, like, a guess because she looks like Tilly or something?
well, and he said that like
Runs
magic
in
runs in
families.
families.
Interesting. So, there's one
Yeah.
of these, one of these, one of these.
Yeah.
So what
And
the
so he was like,
fuck's
"Well,
in
you got."
Elspeth's family?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and then that could be it, right? That maybe her mom had that same kind of magic. She didn't absorb the king because Elspeth's magic is just that she absorbs what
Cards.
the cards are. And so maybe I mean, what did her dad have? Her dad had a well card, and he
Yeah.
had a
Which means she never touched it ever.
no, or she absorbed the other thing. So, what did he?
What's a well
Hold on.
card do? It shows you your enemies?
This shows you your enemies. Um, hold on. Sorry, I know my
Maybe her
keyboard
mom
is
was
loud
just
as
seeing
fuck.
her enemies everywhere because she absorbed the ability to see enemies, and she was just losing her mind.
So, her dad had the black horse because he was the captain of
Oh,
the
yeah.
Drestriers, right?
Yeah.
He had a well card. Did he have a scythe card too?
No. Only Rowans
No.
have scythe cards.
Yeah, right. Okay, so he had those two. So for the black horse card, the spirit wanted blood from my war horse, my steed. Okay, fine. Now let's go find. He didn't have an egg. He didn't have a prophet. Although
Her
Ione's
uncle did.
mom, yeah, Ione's mom did, and so the prophet wanted his fear, so I gave her my fright. Okay. Um, no maiden cards, no chalice. The
Oh, she
well.
absorbs the price that he paid, not the ability of the
Yeah,
card.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. So, yeah. Is she what did he want for the well card?
She asked for a chamber, a place she might dwell. That he made her the room. So he says, weary I'd grown, so I needed the well. She asked for a chamber, a place she might dwell. Says what exactly this chamber refers to is left open to interpretation, and much about the well's creation remains speculative. One theory could be that the chamber may symbolize a space within the king's mind or soul, a metaphorical space where the card's spirit would reside, whispering warnings of betrayal in exchange for eternal access to his thoughts. Another interpretation to the line is a literal one that we learn that the chamber that he created with the one dark window is what he made for her in exchange for the well card.
Yeah, I think he made a literal chamber, but maybe the reason that Elspeth could absorb the nightmare card and have her in his mind is because she touched the well card first, and she
Well,
gave him a place in her mind.
she absorbed his soul from the nightmare card because he gave his soul for the nightmare card.
But she had gotten infected first, right? She was
Yeah,
infected, and then she went to live with her aunt, and then she at some point touched Nightmare and then had him in there. But anyway, I was
yes,
just thinking maybe she
yes, because
touched the
she
well
touched
card
her
first
uncle's
and
nightmare
she
card. I was trying to
absorbed it.
figure out if her mom had the same power. What card did she? Because remember, at some point they asked the nightmare like, so if Elspeth had touched one of the horse cards, she would what absorb? And they're like your hair, and he's like, yeah, maybe it would wrap around her throat or clog her lungs.
Oh
And I
yeah.
was like, okay, well that's interesting because then oh then that's weird because yeah, he says he gave his hair for the horse card, right?
The maiden card.
Oh, for the maiden card, right? If she touched the maiden, that she would, yeah. Because so I'm just trying to think if her mom had the same magic, what card did she pick that caused her degeneration?
I don't think her mom had the same magic.
No, you asked the question though.
Oh. No,
um,
yeah, I was just thinking like, where does it come from? And I was like, maybe it's just
yeah,
because Elspeth is actually like
yeah, but her magic is that she absorbs whatever he gave to make the cards.
interesting. Yeah, it's the kind of thing it wouldn't carry well into like a longer, there's not like going to be a spin-off book, I don't think,
Yeah, no, no, no.
but I think it works.
There was a moment though when she said I absorbed the cards that I was real fucking confused that the cards still existed because I was like, didn't you just say that you
That's why
absorbed it?
I
But
was
yeah,
like, why
it's
is
that
it still
she
there?
absorbs whatever he had to pay to create the cards.
I thought she was gonna have to absorb all of them by the end, or to undo it, or something
Mhm.
like. Um, that's what I thought it was gonna be when that first came out, but or when I first saw that.
But I'm wondering, could you imagine if like the mom touched one of like the scythe cards, which I mean, I don't know, I guess if she's the wife of the captain, she could have come in contact with a scythe card because it claims all of his rest, all of his sleep. And like she would just have died. Like
and
the
she
dad
just
said.
but in
She was
sleep,
just yeah, she's just sick
or,
and
or
she
she'd
died.
sleep forever.
Yeah.
She would just like fall asleep and never wake up because he gave up his sleep, but that means that she gained his sleep.
Yeah, that's fair.
Interesting. But yeah. Okay. So I feel like that was everything I wanted to talk about. I want to talk about Hoth as a villain.
Mhm.
If you ever read Red Rising or whenever you do, we got some villain discussions for that. It's
Cool,
very
cool.
interesting. Um, and then also like the pacing and like the things. Um, but yeah, I think the characters feel very cozy. Like
Mhm.
that, like they feel very like they're your friends. Like
Yeah.
kind of like Akatar has the same similar vibe. Like you kind of feel like you know them almost. I think
Yeah,
that's
I
one of
feel like
Akatar's biggest strengths is that you get that feeling, like that sitcom feeling with a lot of
mhm,
the characters. And I think most good romanticities do that kind of thing to some extent. But I think this one
mhm.
does it particularly well.
There is definitely a feeling of like these characters will stick with me,
Mhm.
and I would definitely read this series again.
Well, I think I read it so fast that I forgot a lot of things, and so I think it'll be nice to read it in like a couple of years.
There,
Um,
yes, there is a quote from the first book that I think will stick with me for a very long time.
really, I never like.
Yes. So I wrote, my note of the quote is, well, fuck if that isn't an indictment on all of human history. And the quote is, when the shadows grow long, when our names turn to dust, what we loved, what we hated will spoil to rust. All will be forgotten save one truth unshaken. What did we do when the children were taken?
Hmm.
And I was like, holy hell, if that is not like, and kind of a reminder to be like, you know, you may want as much power and fame and notoriety as you want, but the things that get remembered about you, think about it.
Yeah.
Because you're like, yeah, whatever you did and however amazing or pretty or whatever you were, that all falls away and you get remembered for your legacy. And what do you want
Mm.
your legacy to be? Because it could just be what you did when they came for children.
That's what you should be remembered for.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's an yeah.
But yeah, I thought that the magic in this, once I kind of got
Magic.
past the like, what the fuck of this,
Mhm.
I was into it. I really liked seeing how there was kind of two magic systems and how they were cohesive but combative with each other.
This would make
I
a great video game, actually.
yeah,
This would really lend itself because you can keep the cards in your inventory.
yep,
It's just like it's built for it. Like, oh my
yeah.
god, yeah, yeah.
I ended up really liking the sort of morally gray aspects of the Shepherd King. I kind of liked when you got to see some of his softer side. I was very much like kind of, I don't know, I cried like a little baby as I always do when I read. But especially when he was like, I thought I could be the father that she needed and the father that I should have been for my own children, and like seeing that sort of protective sense of him and not throwing it back in her face of being like, who saved you that day, but more being like, I wanted to be that. Like, I, you know, when I first entered your mind, I saw wonder and awe, and I thought I could have a second chance at being better than I was in my life. And I don't know, I was here for it. There were moments in the towards the end of the second book that I definitely cried. There were moments where, I mean, I texted you and was like, "This fucking book." I was on the edge of my seat. I had anxiety. There was moments that I was slapping my leg because I was like, "Fuck yes!" The banter, the dialogue, I was into it. The second book was a wild ride and I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
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 now we just gotta figure out what the hell I'm gonna read next. I think I'm gonna read LJ Andrews next. I think that's what's on the table.
yeah. That's what I'll be reading as soon as I finish Mother, Death, and
I
Dying.
am very excited to hear about those books from you though.
I really did forget so much about the first book. It was sucked. So I was like, how am I this is so disorienting. As I
Yeah.
don't really it's not very often that I take that much of a break. Um
Yeah.
so
All right, we will be
yeah.
back next week.
A little more writing from
Yeah,
us too.
some
Yeah.
yep. Hopefully, yeah, I'm definitely gonna write more this week. I think I'm gonna slow down a little bit with the reading and
I will say reading is counts as writing.
it
We're gonna
does.
help.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
And I think that the last two series that I wrote, I think are good, good bits of education writing. So I'm excited. But until then, keep reading.
Keep writing.
And we'll see you next week.